This is the longest intro ever, Matt. Nobody knows behind the curtain. I'm just waiting for Matt to give the thumbs up. I'm just waiting for it. There it is, the thumbs up.
The Nuggets kicked off the 2022-23 season on Monday with Media Day, and we were there. We will give you all the breakdown on all the quotes, all the reactions, all the hijinks, lots of buddy comedy. Everyone's in the best shape of their lives. It's Locked On Nuggets.
You are Locked On Nuggets, your daily Denver Nuggets podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Nuggets, your daily Denver Nuggets podcast. Part of the Locked On Network, your team every day. Thanks for joining us and making us part of your day, wherever you are. I really appreciate you guys joining us and making us your first listen every day. You're going to actually get to make it your first listen, unless you're in the YouTube channel, where you're giving lots of comments like Hurricane, who's always very colorful and making Adam blush and laugh in the comments. Lots of folks in the comments like Big Honey and Hurricane and Zamora and Sean and Blair, who's about to board a plane. Sorry about that, Blair. Sorry about that. Going to be a little bit. You're just going to have to wait on the plane. You're just going to have to catch the next one so you can catch today's show from Locked On.
I'm excited, Matt. I'm excited for today's show or tonight's show.
Yeah, it's exciting. It's Media Day. It was exciting. I was on Locked On NBA for Tuesday. You can catch that show tomorrow morning, and we're on YouTube right now. And I went over a number of teams who had bad vibes.
Can I get your bad vibes power ranking today? Just real quick. Give me a bad vibes power ranking. Get bad vibes.
Okay, bad vibes number one is the Boston Celtics.
Really? They're number one? I guess.
Yeah. Well,
sense.
Marcus Smart literally said it's been hell on us. Like,
yeah, I mean that's yeah.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
Man, I'm telling you, this story is not over, but neither here nor there.
Number two is the Phoenix Suns with DeAndre Ayton looking like someone shot his puppy.
Can you believe they came in number two? They might be the second worst of the decade, and yet they're number two this year.
Yeah. Number three would be the Brooklyn Nets.
Brooklyn Nets, yeah, that's right.
With Kyrie saying stuff like that. And then number four would be the Dallas Mavericks with Christian Wood being like, "It's news to me. I'm coming off the bench."
Unbelievable, man. I don't understand this, man. There's always one guy who's just, it's like Kenneth Freed that one year where he's like, "What? I'm a starter, right?" You're like, "Oh no."
Oh no. And then number five, boy, five is hard because it's Media Day and there's so many positive vibes. No, I thought the Lakers had good vibes today. Because Russ was like, "Look, doesn't matter. Like, it doesn't really matter if they want me or not. I got to go out there and I got to play. I got to go do my job." And Darvin Ham and Rob Pelinka were like, "He's done everything that we've asked." It may all be lies, but if you're like, I'll live it this way. It could have been so much worse. So the Lakers get a passing grade, unfortunately. And with that, we'll start talking about the Denver Nuggets, who held Media Day on Monday. By the way, I'm Matt Moore, from senior writer for the Action Network. Find me on Twitter at HP Basketball. Mm-hmm. Adam's like, no intros. Let's go.
Adam, yeah.
All right, let's just go ahead and get started here. Jamal Murray. I would say that Jamal's demeanor in Media Day was a mix of happiness and reticence to set too high of expectations. So Jamal wasn't like, "I'm back." Jamal wasn't like,
"Sure,
I'm going to go out there. I plan on going out there and killing." Jamal was like, "I just want to see if I can play. I just want to play basketball." At the same time, he seemed to be in a really good mood, and he seemed to genuinely be happy to be back as an NBA player.
Strong agree, man. Like, on all accounts, really. Strong agree. I mean, I thought Murray today, he was maybe the brightest spot of all of it. His presence was great. He just seemed so excited, to your point. Grateful, I think, is the word my colleague Dev used. And that's kind of how I felt. I will say though, do I have the most confidence I have in Jamal Murray's status comes from what other people said about him, not what he said about himself. Does that make sense? Like he kept waiting for the sense of like, oh, I'm 100% back, or I feel great, but instead there was like, I still get really sore. And like, I don't know if
are you ready for me to hit you with a hype?
Let's hear it.
This team reminds me a lot of what I heard from the 2019 Milwaukee Bucks when I went out there. Now the Bucks didn't win the title, but they were the number 1 seed and came damn close.
Right. Right.
That team was very focused on, look, we've talked about being good for years. We're not going to talk anymore. We got to go out and do it. We got to go prove
it. Would have been corny if they were out. You're right. The Nuggets didn't have that. I mean, they didn't even say championships like that much today. Yeah. They didn't even say it. It was like implied.
It seems like the coaching staff is very much in the gear of that's like the underlying thing, but it's more about, we want to win a championship, so we've got to do X, Y, and Z. Like, we've got to be a top 5 defense. We've got to get everybody acclimated with 8 new players. We've got to rest manage so that we're healthy come April, May, and June. Like, it was very much a ground up rather than top down discussion of championship aspirations. And that's like a very good thing to hear as somebody that has heard so many proclamations of how a team is there. You never want to be the mid 2010s Wizards. That's who you never want to be, because the Wizards walked into every media day talking, running their mouths about how they were going to win a championship and how they were going to cause problems in the East and how they had the best, backcourt or whatever it was. And they never backed. Like, it was always, they put their mouths out first. And the Nuggets today were definitely focused on the work to be done, but also the comfort level they have that they can accomplish it.
And more than anything, man, like, it was like, your goal isn't to win a championship. Your goal is to do the work required to win a championship, if that makes sense. Like, Ish today, I thought was so great because he kept talking about like, enjoy the ride. Everybody today was all about enjoy the ride, enjoy the process, enjoy the steps it takes. And that's why I say they weren't saying we're going to win a championship. They were basically saying we're prepared to do the things it takes to win a championship, which is different. It's like there's a humility in it. And but not even just a humility. It's like an excitement and acceptance of like, hey, we're here to work. Like, we're about ready to go through a lot, and we're excited to go through that.
There was a resolve that I felt was, you're right that there's an excitement, but it's more of like a determination, right? Rather than like, this is going to be so great. This entire process is going to be so fun. No. You're going to have months where it's hard. You're going to have months where you're losing. You're going to have stretches where you're not playing well. You're going to have stretches where everybody's banged up. You're going to have these times. It's a long season. You've been through this before. You have to hope that you're healthy at the end of it. But they have the pieces in place. They have a commitment. Everybody seems ready. Everybody seems comfortable with one another. There's nobody's looking out to earn a contract except for maybe Bruce Brown. There's nobody that's really out there looking to get paid. Agendas seem set. And everybody's ready to focus in and do what they do, including Jamal and MPJ, who seem very focused on just want to return to play in the game that they love. Like, they just want to play. That to me was the big takeaways, was that this team seems ready and on the same page. There wasn't a lot of disconnect in the comments about X, Y, or Z. Everybody seemed to be pretty much on the same page about the direction, the goals, what it's going to take. Like, Jamal's going to be a big part of it, and Jamal's back, and that's awesome. But it's going to take time, and it's going to be a process, and nobody's setting goals. Like, I asked Jamal very specifically, I was like, are you able to set goals for yourself? And he said, no, I just need to see if I can play. Like, he's not able to set production. He's not able to say, like, I want to be an all-star. He's not able to say.
Here's the weird thing I'm going to say about that, because this is what I mean by the hype for Jamal all comes from other people, not from him. Is Malone, I thought, did both. Jamal looks great, but also set your expectations low. Like, he literally played both sides of this, which I think is understandable from a coach. But Jamal himself set the bar, I felt like, weirdly low. I'm excited to be back, this or that, but also kind of pump the brakes. But then you ask everybody and they're all like, Jamal looks great. Man, that guy's incredible. Play him.
Yeah.
So that's what I mean is, like, I'm trying to, like, I'm just excited. I don't want to, like, overanalyze this or because I think that would be a drag. We'll find out this week, guys. We're gonna see Jamal play in 1 week. But there was a little bit of me kind of squinting to be like, I just want to hear that you're dunking, and I don't know, like I don't feel like I know for certain where Jamal is.
I would say that I think Jamal doesn't have a lot of interest in. I think he is more of the mindset of, I'll show you. Like, I think that really is where he's at, and I think maybe some of that's caked in a little bit of just still lingering concern because of how traumatic the injury was for him. But he did say, you asked him about, or I think it was Singer. No, Singer asked him about the difference between where he was the last time that the media spoke to him in May versus where he's at now. And it's just like, he said, worlds. He said, it's just worlds different. And you can tell that there's some of that. And yeah, like, I think it was Christian Brown and Jack White who they were asked about how's Jamal look. And they're like, oh, that guy. Oh, they were like, he's awesome. He looks awesome. Yeah. Like, he's been killing it. So I do think it's been interesting the way it's been kind of like looked at, and Joker hasn't been there. So we couldn't ask Joker like, hey, how's Jamal looked?
Right.
So I think it's an interesting, Jamal's expectations are in an interesting place as he enters preseason. I think it's very in an interesting place. Let's take a break. When we come back, I want to get your thoughts on MPJ and his comments, because there's a lot from Michael Porter Jr. today to try and break down and get into. We'll talk about that, as well as continued conversations about all the Nuggets, including we'll start getting into who won the day for us. Christian Brown did not, for me. Very, very nice young man, I'm sure.
Hater.
But
hater.
Make different decisions about their fandoms, and that's all I'm going to say. I am going to tell you, though, that today's episode is brought to you by BetOnline, your number one source for football betting info this season. Find all the latest player developments, team matchups, news, podcasts, and in-depth articles and analysis on every game you can find, including your Denver Broncos taking on the Las Vegas Raiders this weekend. Let's ride! Hot off of a 2-game winning streak. Those Broncos are 5-star reviews. 5-star reviews.
I'm telling you, there's nothing you will honor. There's no honor amongst you in your Broncos hatred.
And I didn't say anything. I said they're on 2-game winning streak.
Did you?
And as always, BetOnline remains your continued source for all your sports wagering information and live betting and up-to-the-minute scores for every sport out there, including MLB, MMA, boxing, and golf. I've been doing a lot of NFL betting, been doing NBA betting, doing some prop betting for the season. I've went ahead and doubled down on my Celtics under position because things are not great with them. Adam, do you know my NFL totals and sides record is this season?
No.
Would you like to know?
Yes.
20-6.
On a roll.
21-6 after I bet on the Dallas Cowboys on Monday night.
Wow.
Head to betonline.net or use your mobile device to learn more. BetOnline, where the game starts. We'll be right back on Locked On Nuggets. Back here on Locked On Nuggets. Thanks for joining us and making us part of your day and your first listen every day. We're free and available on all platforms, including YouTube, where you can catch all sorts of folks in the comments, like Andrew, Blair still hanging out with us, Shaunabis, which I guess is cannabis with a Sean. C. Palmo says, we want Facu. Someone asked about Facu today. That was a fun question for everyone involved.
He was asked, like, the question was kind of like, what's Facu's role this year or something? Like, it was.
Yeah, I know. It's like, you're going to have to find the team he's on. Evan's in here as well. Lots of folks hanging out in the chat. So let's talk MPJ.
I like this take.
Whispers, so not to be heard by Nuggets Twitter. I think DeAndre Jordan is one of the winners of today. I really liked him and the attitude he brought today. You want to talk about? Let's talk about DeAndre, and then we'll talk about MPJ.
Jeff and DeAndre, man, they're a duo.
So yeah, it's very clear that DeAndre's there because of Jeff. Jeff was like, yeah, I was talking to him all last year. Just talking to him. Like, it's very paused in terms of that conversation. Bruce Brown said something similar as well.
Can I say though that this stuff is meaningful though, Matt?
Yeah.
As I know where you're kind of making light of it, but like there are teams like these guys talk when you have friends around the league, you talk, and there are teams where it's like, hey, what's it like there? Don't come here. Like it's not good. And when it's the opposite, especially for veterans who have been around, like you combine Jeff Green and DeAndre Jordan, there's like 15 teams they've played for. You could put a Schmidt in there's like 45 teams that they played for. You put those guys together, they've been around, and for that to be like very clear that they were like, yeah, this place is cool, man. That's something.
I will say the bar has effectively been set as low as possible as it can be for DeAndre Jordan, to the point where even I, who have openly said that by Christmas he'll be a minus 54 in raw plus minus, and he'll have to be excised from the rotation. Even I was like, geez, guys, today, because several questions, this is exaggeration, but they were basically, so DeAndre, how close to death are you?
Yeah,
like,
is it
as
hard?
You ponder the end of your existence on the mortal coil?
Is it hard to move out there? Like when you're moving, like just does it hurt? Like he's like, guys, I'm 34. It's funny because I thought his responses were like he genuinely had not heard or seen any criticisms of him. You know what I mean? Which I think is great. Like you're kind of look at that and you're like, that's hilarious.
Yeah. He was funny. He was thoughtful. Everyone I've ever spoken to has talked really highly of DeAndre. I did an interview with him for CBS, I think 2014, back in the day, many years ago. I talked to him and I was really impressed with him. Thought he was a really thoughtful guy. And that really came through. Like DeAndre's smart and thoughtful and brings like a good energy. He definitely made it, he wasn't like, I'm not coming here to play 35 minutes. There's the 2-time MVPs here. Like he knows his role, but he definitely feels like he can give them what they're looking for, which is 10 to 15 minutes, depending on the matchup, of backup center play a night.
Right. Yep. No, I thought he was great. I mean, what will he be on the court? We'll wait and see. I mean, we'll have to wait and see. But like you said, you've heard so many stories about him being an A+ teammate and this or that. And what I will say is two things stand out to me the most today, Matt. I thought that the energy that the Nuggets just had collectively was really good.
Yes.
Maybe not every single person, but everyone seemed to be in great spirits. And sometimes media day is a drag, as we mentioned with some of these teams. And even on good teams, sometimes media day is like the start of a hike. Like the first mile is the toughest one or whatever. But it felt like everybody was very excited to be getting started, which is not the case every single year. And then number two, just a lot of veterans, man. It's funny to say, but the Nuggets have had very few veterans in years past. In some cases, they've had like one or two. Will Barton's the second oldest guy on the roster of the set. They just have a lot of guys with a lot of basketball or NBA experience on the roster now. And you kind of sense that.
Yeah, I think they all bring a different perspective too, right? Like KCP's off of a championship team, part of the basically an extended part of the Clutch family, has bounced around, but has that experience, knows what it's like to be traded a couple times. Ish, I asked him about what it was like, because to me, I think a lot of people would kind of look at him as like but he's been cut so many times. And I'm like, yeah, but he's still in the league. Like that to me is the kind of stuff that you can really impart on some of the younger players that Ish can, is when you've been the guy that was traded and waived. You've been the guy that was having a good season and got traded, and then they didn't have room for you because they're bringing up a young point guard. Like Ish's perspective, being on 14 different NBA teams, does bring like a level of perspective on things. Jeff Green's gone from part of the young core in Oklahoma City with he was considered the third wheel with Kevin Durant and Russell Westbrook. It was supposed to be KD, Russ, and Jeff Green, to the guy in Boston that then had heart surgery and then bounced around and was a disappointment and had a great season with the Cavs and then the Clippers. Like he's been all of these different things. DeAndre Jordan was like a key member of a serious championship contender. All these guys have different perspectives. You mentioned the attitude. Sometimes I have found in previous years that there are guys that even show up for media day. Like, why do I have to waste my time with this? Like, why do I have to sit here and answer these questions? And instead, everybody today was like really actually okay. Like they were joking and laughing, and It was definitely like, oh, doing media, but it was still.
You got the sense they walked in from hanging out and walked out once they were done back to hanging out. You know what I mean? Like they were interrupted from recess to come do media for a few minutes, and then they got to go back to recess. And it's just not always like that. So it was great. I think with very few exceptions, I thought the energy today was really, really good, and that this team looks. I kind of expect them to have a good camp. I know that's a weird thing to say off of just like energy, but I do think it matters, and the things they say matters.
Vincent says, can't wait for Matt's doomer take on MPJ based on media day, like not wanting to talk about the open runs. No, I just thought that was funny. I just thought I thought him just basically wanting to not talk about doing open runs as if it's like some sort of big secret when it's on social media was amusing.
Well, I will say this, Michael Porter, secret summer, like he's shared a little bit of video and stuff, but for the most part, he hasn't been around. I should say he hasn't been posting things on the internet. Let me be clear there. He hasn't been like super active.
No frosted tips or bleached hair for MPJ. That to me was like an immediate win, just right off the bat. Like already, that's a 1 on the scoreboard for Denver. I want to get your thoughts first. What were your thoughts on MPJ's comments and what he said about everything with his recovery and his status and everything? Mostly I'm like encouraged. Like some of the things, the bottom line, I went back and watched. There's a couple of people whose I went back and watched again because I was like, I want to make sure I get this. I'm not missing something. On second watch with MPJ, one of the things he tried to emphasize was that he feels he is 100%. He's like, you don't come back until you're 100% ready and this or that. And in his mind, he is 100%. He'll be at camp, doesn't need any rest days, doesn't need anything. His mentally and physically 100% back and ready to go. And I think that's the big thing. So that's like my big takeaway. I will say that he did seem to have a little bit of an edge to him, more so than what I've seen in like years past. And I don't know, to say like I understood that, to even say that he had an edge, I'm just saying that was my perception of him. But to try to say more than that, I feel like would just be my like body language doctor opinion. Which is to say I have some thoughts, but I don't feel like I should share them because I just don't know. They're just more like, I wonder if this is what he feels or thinks. He's always struck me as a guy that wants to prove it to people. And I think that to me still maintains what it is that he still wants to prove to people he's great. And he's had to suffer so many questions, right? Like he hasn't had a normal trajectory. Like the normal trajectory is you play a little bit when you're a rookie, you make a lot of mistakes, you learn, you get better. You play a little bit more in bigger situations, you make some mistakes, you learn, you get better. And instead, like MPJ was like, didn't play at all, thrust into basically being like suddenly a star, gets hurt, and now is like, there's all these questions. And I just think it's all over the place. Zamora did ask about this. Can you guys clarify what MPJ said about not trusting doctors? I couldn't hear clearly when watching the media day video. What were your takeaways on that question?
When he was asked about the doctors, I mean, this is what I'm saying is like, there's a lot of different things he could mean here. Here's my opinion on it. Michael Porter is in a very unique situation. He's had 3 back surgeries. He's had a lot of different doctors come in and say, this is the thing, this isn't the thing. If you're Michael Porter and you think a doctor that kind of affected his draft position told him he'll never play basketball, and he's played 2 full seasons. So I think some of his skepticism, I think we can all roll our eyes, and rightfully so. Like there is a little bit of this, like we know Michael Porter has a little bit of like general skepticism about things maybe that the average person does not have. But I also think that there probably is something that's like, well, at the pre-draft, doctors told me I'll never play basketball, and I played 2 years at a pretty high level. So that was my interpretation of it, is that at his mind frame with a lot of this is, the doctors are going to tell me something. I'm going to listen to that. I'm going to try to get the best advice. But at the end of the day, I have something in his mind, something higher I trust in. And because of maybe he's been through 3 surgeries, he's like, I'm not going to be I'm going to have higher faith than just saying like, oh, here's what they're saying about me.
I'm going to throw you for a loop here. I really liked his comments about the mental side of recovery. Yeah. So I'm somebody that's very grounded in science. I'm someone that does trust doctors a lot, a great deal, and medical science and basic rules of physics. But with MPJ, what he was talking about in part was effectively that he had focused very much on the physical side of it. Like, if I can just do the physical stuff to rehab my leg and then just work harder, it'll get there. And didn't basically what he was talking about is trying to get yourself into a place where mentally and emotionally you're more free, which is going to encourage more essential wellness. And there's just been a lot of studies done that when you have those kinds of feelings, it does prompt better outcomes in health management.
No question. There's no question about it. And I felt like that's more or less what he was saying was this was a summer where he was going to try to give himself every advantage that he could, knowing that he needs every advantage that he could. So some of that is like, hey, I'm going to work on my mental and emotional states so that because he believes it'll help his body.
And ultimately, I will also say this, it does not matter what MPJ thinks about medical science or doctors or anything else.
Again, but I just want to be clear. He might not be saying anything controversial about medical science. I just want to put that out there. Like Michael Porter, sometimes he can be a little bit confusing about what he's saying. And I don't want us to sit here and say that he's saying something he didn't.
Yeah, that's absolutely fair. I think here's a better thing. Ultimately, these questions that we're talking about, they don't really matter because the reality is like he seems like he feels like he's in a good place. He feels he's ready to play. He feels he's excited to get back out on the court. And that's all good news for the Nuggets and for Nuggets fans and for him. Like, that's really what it comes down to. And hopefully he can have a full, healthy, successful season.
The only thing I'll note on him is everybody's vibes today were like just through the roof. And I just felt like he was a little edgy. And I mean, maybe that's just his personality. I don't know. But for whatever reason, he was the one guy and him and Yoke both kind of like a little not quite at that same level as say Bones, for example.
Yeah. What did Malone say? Because I'm going to raise up my hand as a foul. My kid had to be dropped off at 8:30 because I couldn't.
Were you late today?
I was late.
Oh, no. Oh, no. I have all my notes here. I'll let you know. Okay. He says, and the first thing he said was he said, somebody asked, how was the summer? And he said, well, it was long. And in this business, you don't want long summers, Malone came out firing, man. I'm telling you, Malone had practiced all of his lines in the mirror 2 or 3 times. He was ready for this, man. He said, and I never heard this, that last September, meaning pre-camp, the time before camp was the worst in all of the 7 years he's been here, saying that just like last year for whatever reason, but he said this year was great. We had a lot of guys in the gym every single day for the last month or whatever. So that, again, noteworthy. And then he also mentioned he was in a car accident last week, a pretty bad one.
Oh, geez.
Him and Ryan Bowen both in it. Somebody hit. It was a hit and run. So kind of a little detail to have. But the biggest thing he said, Matt, was that he has a very, very, very specific goal this year, and it's to be a top 5 defense. He does not believe the Nuggets are going to be an NBA championship team unless they're a top 5 defense. And so we talked about, can they be a top 10 defense? He laughs at that goal. He says top 5. You want more here? He shouted out Bones specifically and said Bones had a great summer and said specifically it was great because he said he felt like he matured. He says that there's a presence you can feel when somebody is in the gym. Like some guys, you could feel their presence when they're in the gym. And he says this summer, you just could always feel when Bones was there. Yeah. So take that for what you will. There's seriousness and a seriousness with which he approached training that he was very impressed with. So again, take that for what it is. He lamented that they have to go to San Diego for training camp.
Oh, that was interesting. That was great. Loved that. Loved that. So I was there for that part. Malone said, when we have a practice court that's got more than 2 full courts, we'll stay in Denver.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just got to let the bosses have it. You just got to do it. Hey, you give me an actual professional NBA training facility,
I will say, man, it was funny this year because this was the year where everybody mentioned it. Like everybody was like, no, we hate going to San Diego. People were like, is it kind of fun to get away and just do this? And they're like, no, we want to be here. We want to train at altitude. We don't want to have to go to San Diego for a whole week.
That's good. I want to ask you about this because you kind of mentioned that Murray's going to play. Malone said that Jokic and Murray are not going to play in all 5 preseason games.
Yeah.
Which I thought was...
I don't think it's that crazy. Didn't they cut it to 4 last year? Did they extend it back to 5?
I do not know.
I thought they had cut preseason down. Huh.
Is it surprising to you that Murray's going to have no full NBA minutes until the Jazz game?
Will he have full minutes that game?
Not full minutes, but...
No, no. He didn't say they're not going to play in any. He said they're not going to play in every.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
You're in Broncos mode still. You're still in Broncos trolling mode. No, they're going to play. They're not going to play in all preseason games.
Okay.
Yeah. Which again, there's 5 of them, so they'll probably play in 4, maybe 3, which is, I think the right, unsurprising and also correct.
There we go. That makes a lot more sense. I was confused by when I saw the reports out. I was like,
"Oh yeah, they're not going to play in any."
Surprising.
I will say though, nobody asked this. I almost asked it, but there's one. It's too specific. But he was talking about back-to-backs. We'll have to look at that. Maybe he rests on the front end of a back-to-back because the first home game is a back-to-back. So I just know they looked at that and were like, "You got to be kidding me."
That is a question, because we were kind of talking about whether or not to ask this. I think that's a question for the last practice before the season. That to me is that's when to ask.
It'll come up for sure.
Let's take a break. We'll come back, and when we do, we will wrap up with winners and losers, mostly winners from Nuggets Media Day. A lot of folks impressed me, including the hardest button to button. We'll do that when we come back on Locked On Nuggets. Thanks for making Locked On Nuggets your first listen every day. Make your second listen Locked On Fantasy Basketball. Josh Lloyd hosts the #1 daily fantasy basketball show on the planet. It's free and available wherever you get podcasts. My guy Rob in Loveland, he has listened to Locked On Fantasy Basketball and is basically just like taking over these fantasy leagues he's joined by just taking them by storm. Absolute, just running over them. So make sure to check out Locked On Fantasy Basketball. Big Nuggets fan. Rob from Loveland. Okay. Let's go to Aaron Gordon. Let's go to Aaron Gordon and Bruce Brown. Want to follow up because we did do a whole show on the tweet and I don't want to not talk about it. I asked Gordon about the tweet and I thought his answer was as good as it could be without including an apology, which I should note that I feel that if I had been like, what do you have to say to the homosexual and the LGBTQ community of Nuggets fans, which I'm not a member of, I would not do that. I think if I had done that, he probably would have been like, yeah, I'm really sorry if I offended anyone, which is different from an apology, but that's neither here nor there. What Gordon said,
I'm surprised. So this doesn't get your full approval. I was kind of surprised by that.
It gets like a 9 out of 10 for me. Gordon said that he responded to it because he doesn't like seeing one of his quote brothers in the NBPA getting hit with a fine for saying something off the court, right? He said he believes in the freedom of speech, and I was like, "Ooh, okay, that's a take." Then he was like, I didn't really honestly know what he said in the video, and once I did some research and found out, I deleted the tweet. He's like, and I was ignorant of what he said. Like, it was good of him to use the word ignorant. I thought that was good. But
he also went a little further than that, Matt, though. And he said that because it would have been one thing if he was like, there's freedom of speech. That's what I was saying. But he was like, even within that is a thing that he should have been fined for. That's not appropriate or whatever.
Yeah, the fine was appropriate. And he said, I believe in freedom of speech, but that comes with consequences. And I was like,
exactly. That's exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Other than that, AG's in a great vibe. Like AG's always vibing, just great vibe, absolute killer vibes. Bruce Brown caught me as a guy that was like really happy to be in Denver. that this
Bruce
is
Brown?
Bruce Brown, that this is his speed of a city. You have not been impressed with his press conferences, the first two of them.
Bruce
You really
Brown?
not.
No,
Yeah.
no. That was an agreement. I was like,
Oh, okay.
He looked like he was very happy to be in Colorado. He seems like a Coloradan. I'm kind of
Somebody asked like, what's it like? This city doesn't get necessarily the kind of attention. He was like, I know it's great.
Yeah.
He said like New York.
I like Bruce Brown, man.
Yeah.
He said I'm rooting for all these guys, man. Honestly, I walk away today thinking like all these guys, but Bruce Brown, I'm rooting for.
Yeah, he said New York was a lot. He just like let that one hang out there.
Every time I leave New York, I feel the same way. New York was a lot.
Really enjoyed Jack White. Really big winner for me,
man.
Was Jack White.
Agree. I think the only question I have about Jack White is can he shoot? And somehow he holds every 3-point record in the preseason thing.
Yeah, so okay, apparently in the pre-runs, they have these shooting drills that they go through, and there's like the Nuggets 100, that's the hardest level, and Jack White set the record for it.
This year's record. I don't know. I don't think it's like an all-time record, but this year's record.
And then there's the easy 50. And
he's got that one as well.
And he's got that one as well. And it was great when we asked the other players about it, because KCP was like, I haven't stepped in that gym yet. So, and like everybody else was like, I'm coming for it.
I love that Jack White holds these records, by the way. Also, great comedic timing from him. He had some great, like the way he told the stories were great. And then there's, the easy 50 and, well, I have that one too. So
yeah,
it's like, all right, man.
It was awesome. Zeke Naji is in fact, can confirm from the videos, they are accurate. He is in fact jacked. Zeke Naji is
absolutely jacked last year.
He is. I did not. I still thought he was. I did not think that he looked like this last year. I think he's.
I want to hear your answer to this question real quick.
I think he looks bulked. Is Jack White a serious candidate for rotation minutes? Nuggets do need a backup 3 in his body type. I think he's a candidate for backup combo 3-4. Yeah, I think if Jeff Green's taking the night off, I think he can absolutely get minutes. So,
I mean, he's basically competing with Bruce Brown, Christian Brown, Davon Reed, and Jeff Green, I guess, for minutes as that backup 3. And like 1 or 2 of those guys will play. But we'll see.
Let's talk about the Zeke Naji thing, because that was a big question mark going in, right? Like this is a key element that I've spent a lot of time on. Malone seemed more optimistic that he can play 5, and basically said we screwed up by trying to make him into a 3. And that I think if there's like a Venn diagram of 3 and 4 and 5, they have excised all of the 3, and now he's a combo 4 and 5, where Zeke definitely, he said, I feel like I'm a power forward. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's where he thinks he is. But he said, like, I can do center things, which is accurate. Right. Like, and so the question there is simply, can they find someone, can they find a 5? Can they find someone to play with him that can share those responsibilities, whether it's Jeff Green or Vlatko Čančar or DeAndre Jordan? They need one of those guys to be able to, they need a combination of Zeke Naji and another front court player to be able to get them through the 15 minutes a game where Nikola Jokic does not play. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, for sure. I think Zeke Naji, I don't know that anybody has it won or anything like that, but I do think Zeke Naji has I think the team would like for him to win this one. He was a first round pick. He's got a skill set that's very enticing if he can do all the other parts of it. The shooting's really important. This is what I mean by the vibe so good today, though. Talking about Jack White being a shooter, this or that, and then Zeke Naji chimed in. By the way, Zeke Naji doesn't show a lot of personality too often, but he had a great one-liner today. He's like, the real measure is your in live game 3-point percentage, which of course he wins because he shoots 46%.
Yeah.
I just thought that was great.
I thought it was interesting that he mentioned he tweaked his shot.
I did too.
I was like, you shot 45% from 3, man. I know it was limited attempts, but you shot 45% from 3. I wouldn't touch it. I would try and keep that form forever.
You know what, though? It is a note I heard from just talking to somebody is they were like, Zeke looks great. He's really shooting the ball well. And I mean, again, in my head, I'm like, he always does. But there was a note about that specifically. So,
he mentioned that he really worked on bulking up, and he said he worked on screening, and that to me that's really key. Is that if he can be, honestly, it doesn't matter who's playing quote unquote 5. If he can screen and roll, the offense is going to carry because they got enough weapons.
Yeah.
Bones is Bones. Bones is amazing. I'll be honest. I want to be very clear here. I enjoy Bones just like everybody does. I don't necessarily. I feel like all of us get very excited to like play back and forth with Bones in the media scrums because he's such like a personality and he's so honestly happy. And I'm always like, I don't need to be like, I don't need to do this. Like everyone else.
You didn't even have to say this. We all know it, dude. We get it.
What?
Everything that people like immediately turns into Sebastian for you. So we get it. He's got a little Sebastian in him. We get it.
No. I want to be very clear here. He's actually good. Like he's very good and is going to have a great season. But he looks.
But is he fun as everyone says?
He does. He does sound. He does. But I love the fact that he's like embracing the challenge and the expectations. That to me is impressive. That instead of being a little bit like, well, I'm just going to be me. Yeah, like he seems like, no, yeah, I've got to be great. I'm going to be awesome.
Yeah.
And he also talked about how much he loves being out in the community. And that is awesome. There are just for somebody that remembers what it was like in the Freed years when it was Freed and Ty and how everyone just really did it. This is one of the big differences. I'll say this. Seeing these guys that have been in the runs, this was not how it was when I got here.
Right.
Everyone got into camp like the day before.
Right.
Like it was like, if you had to be at media day at 9 a.m. on Monday, guys were getting in on Sunday night.
By the way, shouts to guys like Jeff Green and DeAndre Jordan. Cause like KCP, I think just got in, and I don't think that's that unusual for veterans.
Yeah,
veterans like they've been a little bit longer, but Jeff Green and DeAndre Jordan, although they're only 34 years old, I just want to make it clear they're only 34, but still like they're veterans, and for them to be here as long as they have been is pretty cool.
I also enjoyed how Jeff talked a little bit about having the rookies out for his mini camp and those type of things. And I asked him about, it's funny because everybody kind of thinks like, oh, they're like going to be learning the offense or whatever. And I'm like, no, it's about teaching guys that are in their first years in the league about how to be NBA players, about the lifestyle, about how to manage stuff with your families, about who to go to when you have a problem, when somebody needs, like, how do you manage your money? Those those are the things that I think take way more out of inexperienced players than anybody sees. And we always just kind of chalk it up to how hard the NBA is on the court. And I'm like, it's a lifestyle. Like, being in the NBA is a lifestyle. You are now part of a select group of people, and it's awesome and super fun, I'm sure. But it also comes with a lot of stresses in terms of, like, you're making a lot of money, and that comes with a lot of people wanting in your pockets. And it comes with, wanting to make everybody happy. It's not, you're different now. You are different from the rest of society then. And that's got to be a little bit of an adjustment.
Yeah, I don't know what else to say. Strong agree. Is there anybody we missed? Did we miss anybody today? Ish, your boy, Ish. He was another winner today.
Yeah, he was
let
great.
me hear your top 3 winners of Media Day. That's what I want to hear. Top 3. You have to pick 3.
Jack White.
And only 3. Jack White. That's such a bad take. I love it. I'm with it. He was great today as well. All
Jack
right,
White.
Winner.
Jack White.
Okay. He was number 1, apparently. At least first one in.
Jack White. DeAndre Jordan.
I think it's fair.
I really enjoyed talking to DeAndre. And honestly, Jamal comes in and Joker goes for the grapes, and Jamal's like, "Hey, give me a grape." And Joker brings over an entire thing of grapes and hands it to him, and he's eating grapes and he's joking with him, and Joker says the word gadgets. Everyone's got their own gadgets. He's like, "I love it. That's great." Yeah. Like, they looked very happy to be around each other again. Just Jamal can be combative. Jamal can be annoyed. Jamal can be very much like, I don't want to talk to you right now. And I was appreciative of what he gave today. That was kind of him. So,
yeah. All right,
it was good to see him back. Who are your 3 winners?
I'll say Jamal as well. Your list is pretty good. I don't check why he's a little crazy, but just to give some different names besides Jamal, we will agree on that one. I'll say Davon Reed. I just was really impressed with. I really like Davon, man. I just think he has like a good perspective. You know, like he was really good today. And then again, just to be a little bit different, Ish Smith to me also, like, I didn't have really too many Ish Smith thoughts, and then I thought he was
yes,
he just was like, you know, he got it. So him talking about got to enjoy the ride, you got to this or that. I mean, I thought it was good.
So everyone's been asking in the comments, so I'm gonna go ahead and talk about it. Nino says, Matt, any reaction to Christian Brown on the Kansas City Chiefs? Little heartbroken that he's, you know, from the area and not a Chiefs fan at all.
I also love when he admitted to not being a Chiefs fan, even though he's from Kansas City. I love that he goes, I have to be honest, right? And it's like, no.
No.
On some things you can just be like, hey.
Who doesn't love Patrick Mahomes?
Although I will say, because when he was like saying, I actually don't like the Chiefs, then that was the perfect pander, you know, like, but I kind of like the Broncos. Like, hey, you just won over the city. Good job pandering. Who cares?
Yeah. And then he was like, but I don't like the Broncos either. He's like, I like Tom Brady.
Tom Brady. It's like, what?
Yeah. So it's good. No, you know what though? Honestly, Christian Brown gets an A+ for me. You want to know why? He united both me and Broncos fans. The one thing we both hate is Tom Brady. So absolutely. Let's ride.
I will say though, I have to give one shout out. You never admit when I'm mad.
Oh boy.
You never admit it. I want to tell
you. I literally spent half of the show talking about how smart and thoughtful you are.
He means something, because Michael Malone said, I don't think anybody out there realizes Colin Gillespie was going to play this year. And I just want to say, when he said I don't think anybody realizes, I wanted to be like, I think one person realized.
Yeah. And Malone really talked about how heartbroken it was for the kid. And
truly, but also not even just heartbroken. He might be around next year. I mean, he talked about, like, he likes him a lot.
He likes him a lot. He's very high on him. So that's, you know, it's a bummer that happened. Hopefully the kid can get back and have another opportunity. Like, Malone also sticks with guys. Like, Davon's a good example of this, right? Like, Davon, he met years ago, got an opportunity to bring him on last year. Didn't, you know, they couldn't keep him after the 2A expired deadline.
Right.
Make sure that he gets a deal this summer. Like, Malone does. I will say this: Malone commits to people, and I think that's a positive thing. And look, I think Colin Gillespie could be really good. I think he could be really good in the G League. So I'm just kidding. He could be good. I don't know. I don't know.
Hey, you know what? There's me and Michael Malone on one side. You know, you're on the other.
And the haters on the other. It's you and Michael Malone and Colin Gillespie and Saka Campazzo. So maybe the last thing, just to wrap up, is I would say that this is the most positive I've been. Like, we were high on the team coming in. We have high expectations. Sometimes we have come out of media day, like you especially have come out of media day and been like, boy, I don't know. Like, there was some concerning, like you have.
More often than not, I would say you're neutral coming out of media day. Yeah. Most often than not, you're like, all right, that was just a thing that happened and this or that. But like, this one was more that was just like, man, vibe around this team seems really, really good. And Michael Malone started it. Like, Michael Malone, he was talking about how in years past, some of the stuff that's been going on doesn't happen. Like, he made a point to say, like, hey, the fact that this team is all doing these types of things, that doesn't happen every year. So we're not just reading into it. He kind of also feels this way.
All right, that is your 2022 Nuggets Media Day wrap up from Locked On Nuggets. Thanks for joining us, everybody. Thanks for joining us in the chat for a late night show. Appreciate it. Adam is headed to San Diego for Nuggets training camp. You can catch coverage of that over at DNVR. We'll, of course, be talking about it. I'll still be here in Denver talking with you. So the schedule is going to be, I'm going to do a show tomorrow morning, 9:30 our usual time a.m. I'll talk about some more of my like other thoughts about Media Day that we didn't get to. I'm sure I'll have more. And then kind of a look ahead for training camp battles, stuff to sort out, the priorities for those things, as well as a look around the league, because there were some interesting developments league-wide in terms of Media Day on Monday for the other teams. Zion Williamson looks jacked. That's
what I hear. I haven't even looked, but I hear
he looks cut. It's terrifying. We'll talk about all that and more on tomorrow's show. Adam will then, on the following day, we'll have an episode from the first day of training camp and start covering it that way. We may shift it around and do it after the late at night, after the training camp, camp availabilities and things like that, depending on what Adam's schedule is like, because he'll be so busy in San Diego enjoying the sights and the sounds and the smells of the surf and whatever it is that one does in San Diego. Find me a retro Chargers t-shirt in somewhere. I want a Chargers t-shirt from San Diego.
No.
Fine, jerk. So we'll do all that and more. Lots to cover this week. 5 shows a week starting now, all the way through the end of the season. The ride begins now. Thanks for joining us, everybody. We'll see you again next time on Locked On Nuggets.
The ride. I swear you're trolling.